Okay, there we are. Okay. Hi, this is Harry, and I am here with this week's comic book review. So I'm going to shake things up a little bit, and I'm going to switch things around from taking a look at what I have for the month and instead taking a look at what I have read for the week and trying to get into a rhythm of getting up at least a once a week video and seeing how that goes. So some will be long, some will be short, some will be about something, and some will be about nothing. So, but for now, I have a quick comic review for some of the stuff I've been reading, and then I'm going to just take you for a walk around the hobby room for a little bit, and you can see some of the stuff that I'm working on, and we'll just talk about a couple little things. So, sound good? All right, let's go for a quick ride. So, I'm going to begin with one of the most serious and difficult to read comics that I've had in my collection, and that is Animal Pound by Tom King, Peter Gross, and Tamara Bonvillain. And so I read the first issue, and immediately it hit me that this is Animal Farm. So this is animals that are uprising and kicking out the people that had run the pound, and now they are trying to be free. And so they're creating their own government and that sort of thing. So in this issue, things start to get real because so there's going to be spoilers. This has been out for a little while, so you know, don't come at me, bro, as it were. Yeah, it's been out since February, so if you haven't read it, do read it because this is really good. But it begins with they're starting to run low on food, and one of the rabbits is killed by one of the dogs. And so it sets the entire pound on edge. And they're all wondering what they're going to do and how they're going to not so much make ends meet, but how are they going to survive without humans to feed them? And so they end up trying a few different forms of government. Fifi, who had led the revolution, who was a disciple of Lucky, which you'd have to have read the first issue to get all of this. But anyways, she and Titus, who was the dog leader, as it were, um, kind of start figuring out how they're going to do a government. And first, they try to have a system where everybody has a say. But when they did that, it was, I think the quote was, when everybody has a voice, nobody has a voice. Because it's just too much. Everyone's drowning each other out, and there's just arguments, and people are bringing some of the animals are bringing up nonsensical things that nothing can be done about, such as the rabbits going on and on about how, well, everyone says that we like carrots, but we don't like carrots, and carrots aren't the thing that we should be eating, and they like just going on and on like verbal vomit. So they try that. That doesn't work. They try a more representative government. That doesn't really work. And eventually they come down to they're going to vote for a leader. And the votes are all cast by the weight of the animal, because the heavier the animal, the more resources they will consume. And so there's a lot of cats, there's fewer dogs, the dogs weigh more. However, if they went just by population, the cats would way outnumber everybody else. And so they decide that the heavier the animal, the more weight its individual vote has. And so you can kind of see some of the analogies that are going on, analogous things that are happening. Because, again, this is as Animal Pound, it's very similar to Animal Farm, which it's kind of a inspection of government and system. So eventually we get a leader put in place, and they cannot find a way to get food until Mitten the kitten, which is freaking adorable. I'm Mitten the kitten. uh, tells them about there's a camera that allows the world to give money to the pound, and money can be used to buy food. And so now they're going to be trying to stream to get money for the pound so that they can get food. And then one of the dogs, what was his name? Piggy. So Piggy is this big bulldog who's starting to get a little too full of themselves. It all ends with the very like sinister, just Piggy staring at the camera, but all that was revealed was his own reflection, and just that he slobbering, that to be continued, like just looking at Piggy like crawling up onto the chair, getting ready to go on camera. It's like it is steaming towards something horrible happening. And that's the thing with this entire book is as you're reading it, you just know something horrible is going to happen. And the way it's written, it actually makes you think a lot about how we as humans interact with what we consider to be pets for animals, and how the pound system works and all that sort of thing. But more so, it also makes you think about how we as society work together and against each other and for each other. So, Animal Pound, right now, this is one of my favorite books. When I had this in my pile, I went right to it. I wanted to read it right away. It's not one that Sarah's reading, so I try to prioritize the ones that Sarah's reading first so that I can pass them on to her. But this one, I would not suggest for her to read it just because it's so serious. The first issue had me almost in tears. This issue is a bit more tame, but you have the feeling of something really, really bad's going to happen. Next up, I had The Nasty, number 7. So this has been interesting. I've really loved the story so far. That it's this group of teenagers that are trying to make a horror movie. They are trying to save their local video store because what has happened is they're in the UK during a period where horror movies, video nasties as they're called, are being prohibited, and there's a lot of like parental action against them. And so the local video store is where these kids hang out and they watch horror movies and that sort of thing. And so it's sort of in the crosshairs of everything that's going on. And so they're going to host this horror film festival. They got a specific video nasty, The House of Crawling Flesh, I believe the name of it was. And they were going to show that. It was going to draw in a big crowd of people that like these sort of films. Anyways, long story short, when the videotape is put into the VCR and is played, the VCR eats the tape, and Red Ennis, who is a horror character, he's the dude in the miner's mask that we see right there, this guy. He is like the imaginary friend of Thumper, one of the main characters, the director of what's going to be the movie that these kids are making. And he's like an invisible friend that becomes real. Anyways, things have been getting way out of control because Red Ennis can actually kill people. And once they are done shooting a movie, the person's not actually dead. So these kids have been shooting a movie to take the place of the House of Crawling Flesh, House of Flesh. I should really look, but I'm not going to. Anyways, so they're trying to reshoot this movie and so that they have something to show, and they're using the imaginary friend who's become real, who can actually do heinous, horrible things to people, and it doesn't actually happen, but it happens. So like they actually go through the horror of dying, being ripped apart or whatever, but then when they say cut, it's all better, which crazy. Anyways, Um, I'm just going to wrap this up quickly because I'm meandering on this one because it's a lot of plot threads that are all coming together because this is just about over. I think there's one or two more issues. But I just want to sum up quickly that this issue, things get back on track. The friend group is getting back together, and they're really realizing that making the movie, horror movies in general, mean a lot more to them because it's brought them all together. So that's sort of the main thrust of this particular issue. Sorry about that. I just whacked the microphone. But yeah, so in this issue, I think some of my favorite stuff has just been the fact that they're starting to bring it to a close. And so one of the things that happens is they decide that they're going to destroy the videotape that brought Red Ennis out of Thumper's mind and into reality, because they want to get rid of Red Ennis because he's no longer controllable and he's becoming more violent. And they're worried that the reality of things is going to get out of control. So they try burning the cassette, and of course, that doesn't work. And they even call it out. Let's see if I can get that to focus. I can't get. Keep hitting the microphone. So, anyways, but yeah, so they realize that they can't destroy him via the tape, and so they try what I feel is a very 1980s, like Wes Craven sort of approach of just facing it on a psychological level. So Thumper approaches Red Ennis and he confronts what Red Ennis actually is, which is his own childhood innocence, which I think is interesting. It's something that we all can kind of relate to, I think. When you let your inner child die, it's a bad thing. You lose the ability to heal a lot of things. So, but that is The Nasty. Is it almost done? It's been a good read. I don't know if it's terribly memorable. Like, I don't know if 2 to 3 years down the line I'll remember it, but I've enjoyed what I've read so far. So it's at least passingly interesting. So Jill and the Killers, number 2. So I read the first one already, of course. And Jill is a character who her mother has disappeared, assumed to be dead. Her mother was a police officer, a detective. And so what happens is Jill's finally getting back into society. She's getting back to school, getting back with her friends. And she's taken a lot of time out. Part of it has been her father thought that she's not ready to go back. Part of it is that she just wasn't actually ready to go back. So she's back in school, back with her friends, and everyone's kind of moved on from the things that they were interested in when she was previously in school. So it's been about like a year or so, I think it was. And they're all interested in true crime. And so she's trying to get back into her friends' lives. And they're talking about this true crime crate that you can get through the mail, and it's like Hunt a Killer. You may have seen the ads for that sort of thing, and it's a solve a mystery with your friends. So she begs her dad to have the money to be able to order this thing. They order the thing, and then this giant box arrives, and it has all sorts of evidence, and it's in around her hometown. And lo and behold, as things unfold, it's actually evidence that was being sent to her mother, and it's a real crime. And so Jill and her friends that she's sort of post-friend with and trying to rekindle their friendships and loves, are trying to solve a real killing. And there's a string of them. And so it's a nice murder mystery sort of thing. And it's been pretty cool so far. It's sort of a slow burn, as it were. Like we don't have any idea of who a killer may be. I don't know if we've actually even met the characters that is the killer, but we'll find out. But long and short, though, this has some neat twists and turns. There's a prime suspect that's found in this issue, and Jill and her friends pursue him. They stalk after him. He gets this giant box, and they want to see what's going on inside the box because they think that it's a freezer. Because one of the bodies that they had found in the previous issue were found in a freezer. So maybe this guy is the killer. And maybe he's got another freezer to store another body in. And it turns out to not be a body. Well, it is a body. It's not what you expect. So that's it. I'm not going to really blow a lot about this one because I think that this is a worthwhile read. The characters are very well developed, and seeing Jill struggle to fit back in with her friends is a very realistic touch. Because you catch a lot of the sort of young adult teenage angst of wanting to be part of your friend group. And when you're ostracized or they've grown out from where you're at, there's a lot of frustration and a lot of trying. And there's one character, Clyde, who's a new person to the friend group, and Jill feels like is the replacement of her. And so you have a lot of head-butting, banging of heads and gnashing of teeth about Clyde and Jill, because like one of the lines in this one, Jill says, well, taglines are my thing, one-liners are my thing, and Jill will like repeat things that Clyde had said as though she were going to say them first, or like there's a lot of sort of childish back and forth, which just really captures the age that these folks are supposed to be at. So Jill and the Killers, very solid. I could see this as a TV series. I would watch this as a TV series. I'd prefer it to be animated, but that's me. And then the last one I'm going to take a quick look at, and this is going to be a very quick look, is 7 Years in Darkness, the Shamir Worm. So this takes place in the 7 Years in Darkness universe. I had started reading the original series and I missed out on an issue, so I've kind of skipped reading until I can get the missed issue. And this kind of takes place somewhere in the midst of what's going on inside of the story arcs. And it follows one of the characters, Zero, who finds that the folks in the Undercity where the school is kept, and I'm realizing that this is a very vague review. Because if you know nothing about this, you have no idea what I'm talking about. And it's a long story to get to where you need to go for this. I'll try very quickly. Imagine Hogwarts, except for it's underground, dark, grimdark, and the kids that are in school are dying because they're either killing each other or the spells are killing them that they're learning. And that's 7 Years in Darkness, sort of in a nutshell. They're wizard families that are competing with one another, all trying to learn their craft. And they're not supposed to know each other or have links with each other, except for if you're within the house that you belong into, blah, 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 blah. But long and short, you got this young wizard who finds out that some of the folks in the Undercity that support the school, so imagine that little village that's outside of Hogwarts, it's populated, but imagine it populated by monstrous, icky things like a dude with tentacle face. And all these monstrous things are planning on destroying the school to teach those kids a lesson. And so Zero, one of these students, unleashes the Shamir Worm, which, if you've seen Guardians of the Galaxy, the arrow. Sorry, I bumped the mic again. The arrow that the dude can shoot back and forth, and it just like shoots through somebody's throat and they die. It's like that. Only bigger and grosser. Because it's this worm-like thing, and it can just shoot through the air, and it can shoot right through a person and just kill them instantly. So this worm was actually part of Zero's birthright and heritage, and his instructor, the leader of his house, explains to him, well, I should say them, because I believe that they are they, and they're either they or they're she. I'll just use they. Anyway, so Zero, part of their heritage is this worm, and their instructor, the master of their house, tells them the story about the worm and how basically it was used to create a home for the ancestors of the house. And it was not meant to be a weapon. However, in Zero's hands, it is a weapon. Maybe that's what it needs to be right now. So, interesting, intriguing. If you like magic and you like subversive kind of stuff, if the Harry Potter world is sort of your jam, but you don't like turfy J.K. Rowling, and you don't like super clean fantasy, this is dark, this is gritty, this is up your alley. And those are the main things that I got, that I've read. And I'm really quickly going to run through what I've got kind of coming up on the docket. These are, I'm not going to probably see these next week, but we'll see them soon. We got The Nasty, number 8, coming towards an end. Remember, I told you it's coming to an end. Dawn Runner, number 1. This, like, mecha story I heard good things about. Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees. Let's get that up here. This has been phenomenal. I've loved this series so far, and this is number 4. I think there's 5 issues, and I'm seriously, I'm on the edge of my seat for that one. Beware the Planet of the Apes, number 3. I've read the first one. I'm just started reading the second one. I like Planet of the Apes, and there's a new movie coming out, and I'm super excited, and that's just stoking my excitement. Dark Ride. Look at this cover. I tell you, the evil Walt Disney looks like an evil Colonel Sanders. But yeah, this series is on number 11, and number 10 was mind-blowing and astonishing. I feel like the story's coming to an end. Helen of Windhorn. I got the foil cover because I love foil covers. This looks really interesting. It gave me some like magical witch Hellboy vibes, so I picked it up. Dungeons and Dragons Ravenloft. So Ravenloft is one of my favorite D&D settings. I played Curse of Strahd with my group of friends over the pandemic, and I enjoyed myself a little too much. And it'll be fun to visit Ravenloft through an author's eyes. Jill and the Killers number 3 is probably going to jump right to the top of my list because I want to know what happens next. Gargoyles number 12. Gargoyles is coming towards an end, and they're going to be having Gargoyle Quest soon. So I think Gargoyles is coming to an end, then Gargoyles Dark Ages will come to an end, then it'll be Gargoyle Quest. And then I think that's it. I'm not sure if the license is running out or if they're going to do something else, but I don't recall seeing anything in this month's solicitations. We got Dungeons & Dragons Saturday Morning Adventures, number 3. This has been a fun read. And then Predator The Last Hunt, number 2. So all those will be coming up soon. So I promised you a look at my craft desk. Let's go take a walk over there. All right, so this mess is my hobby desk area. Let me just sit on down, and I'll walk you through what's going on here, because there's a lot. So first up, I have this month's Mini of the Month sprue ready to get put together. I already put together one of them. I have a second one to put together. I have some pieces for a fighter plane I put together the clear canopy pieces. I'm just going to keep those aside until my painting's done. I have parts that I'm keeping aside for when I make a texture palette, all in the middle of my actual palette. I have the Against the Ogre Horde Hero Quest. I have to take the minis out of that so I can prime them and get them ready to go. I have some of the Hero Quest minis up in the back on the left, waiting in line to get painted. On the far back, I have a Death Guard Mephitic Blightcrawler to take care of. Then I have a whole bunch of dudes primed in black. And I'm just gonna go right up in here. So yeah, you can see, or barely see, they have a bunch of dudes all primed and ready to go. So it's gonna be a while before I get through all of them, but is what it is. So I got my glue ready for when I do my assembly. Glue, glue, glue. And then I have what I'm currently working on, which I've got these Necron dudes are all up front. So I'm doing them in all sorts of different color patterns because I don't have a main Necron army. My thought was I just want to paint some Necrons and I might use them for firefight. And there's no need to have just one core dynasty. So these guys all have their, let's see if I can pull back a little bit so you can see them better. All their Gauss weapons. I'm starting to fill in the white so I can do the energy effects on them. And other than that, you get all these little scarabs, which kind of will give you a preview of how things are going to look at the end. Behind them are a bunch of Hero Quest folk that I started painting. I've kind of felt bored with some fantasy stuff, so that's why I pulled out the Necrons. But I have so much Hero Quest still to paint. So I've been playing around with dry brushing with a wet brush. So I have my little tamping pad with some sponge and water in there. I got my official Citadel paint pot, water pot thing. And then back here, if I can get my fingers on it, I have some Apple Barrel craft paint and some Noosh. So I've been using this instead of Nuln Oil for my washing for black so far. Just see how that works. I've heard good things about Noosh. So then I also got this AK Snow Sprinkles, which have been really cool for my snow effects. I'll show you some of that in a second. I've been doing some magnetizing, so I still have some magnets out. I have super glue because I've been doing some magnetizing. New craft knife bits. My drills for actually drilling the holes for magnetizing. All the paints I'm currently using, because I'm using way too many paints, because I am not able to focus on just one project lately. I got my new dry brush, little makeup brush for dry brush, and I don't know. The suggestion has been to use a kabuki brush for dry brushing, and it works really well. However, I find that cleaning it is kind of nasty and difficult, but is what it is. And then back here, I have a bunch of completed minis. So I still have to photograph them for my posterity. So let's just see if I can grab some of them up and get a good look at them. Got a Polar War Bear. You can kind of see the AK sprinkle snow effect on there. It's pretty cool. I don't know how far back he has to be to actually be in focus. So I've got Polar War Bears. I got these ogres I've been working on. And I'm very happy with how their skin came out. Look nicely modeled and gross. I did them in a variety of skin tones, because I like to do that. So I have the 3 different Caucasian versions of contrast skin tones that they have, and I use the Wildwood for the darker skin tone. And then I also have the dragon from the Mythic Hero Quest tier, which I'm pretty happy with how he came out. I decided to go really subtle with him because he's so cloaked in darkness in the painting. Sorry, in the painting, I say. In the art on the card, I thought that it would be nice to sort of mirror that. And then he came on this tiny little pillar, so I just put him on a larger base so he won't fall over as easily. So, and I painted it kind of like dungeon tiles. So, but yeah, so that's sort of what my paint area looks like right now, which is a giant mess. I have to neaten this up because goodness gracious, it is confusing. And so yeah, that's the area behind me that you will always see. That a couple months ago was completely clear. Then I decided to paint Hero Quest, and it's not been a bad project, but what I found is I just really enjoy painting the sci-fi stuff a lot more. GW's models are just so much nicer, I should say, than the Avalon Hill Hasbro ones. Because when I'm painting Hero Quest, I feel like I'm painting a board game. I don't feel like I'm painting models. And it comes down to their pieces are board game pieces. They're not model pieces. The sculpts are getting better, but they are nowhere near as crisp or as pleasant to paint as any of GW's stuff, as any resin prints that I've dealt with. The only, like, they are on par with the WizKids minis, which I do not enjoy painting. Um, they are better than Shadows of Brimstone. If I had to pick, if I had to pick one project to never paint again and to possibly go back and never have painted in the first place, Shadows of Brimstone. That was horrible. The I had a lot of stuff came out cool. The monsters were fun. The human characters, like potato faces. One of the minis had like been connected to the sprue like right on their chest and right in the middle of their face. Like it was horrendous, the whole process. And then they had some resin minis, some regular plastic minis. The resin minis I didn't enjoy painting at all because they had enough flashing on them to make me miserable. And then just that whole entire experience, it soured me so much on Flying Frog stuff. I have not bought anything else from them since. I had backed them on Kickstarter. Done. Um, so, talking about mini projects and stuff, I've been collecting the Hero Quest stuff, and it's been more collecting than playing. I honestly don't know that I know anyone that actually wants to play the game. If I'm going to get together to play a game for 2 to 3 hours, I'm going to play a role playing game. So I'm probably not going to pull out a late 80s, mid 80s board game that has pretty like scratch the surface level stuff, but it's a fun game and I enjoy it. It's the thing that originally got me into role playing games, but I tell you, I'm not having fun painting it. It's a project that I almost want to walk away from, but every time I start walking away from it, I'm like, oh, well, maybe I'll paint a little bit. And then I enjoy it for like a week. And then I look at the rest of my paint queue and I think I'd rather be painting that guy. So I'm just going to take my time with it and I'll do it a little bit at a time. But I'm not in a rush to get more. Against the Ogre Horde is the last or latest of the expansions, and honestly, I think it might be the last expansion I get. If they do the Wizards of Morkar, which is the last of the original Hero Quest expansions, I may get that. But I don't think I'm going to get any of the additional stuff unless it really, really piques my interest. And I'm talking like, I want really cool new characters. I want really cool new minis. And I want the quality of these things to be a lot better. Because I I don't want to be miserable painting stuff. I want to enjoy painting it. So there's that. Uh, Anyways, I want to kind of just wrap everything up uh, by saying it's been a long time since I've done a video. And I can kind of tell because I'm all over the place. Not that I was ever really well organized to begin with, but it's it's a matter of finding the time to do it has been really difficult, and so I just want to make the time to do it because it's something I enjoy doing, and I enjoy sharing my point of view on some of this stuff and spending some time with y'all. So that said, uh, health wise, I'm feeling okay. I have some things that need to get looked at, which are what they are, and that'll be sometime later this year. I've already made appointments and stuff, so it's nothing that's a rush about or anything like that. Um, Work wise has been ridiculous. I'm working 10 to 12-hour days frequently, and that's a lot. So uh, it eats up a lot of my time, which when I'm there, I'm really happy. And when I'm not there, I'm like, do I want to be there? um, I like the people I work with, and that's a big thing. If I did not like the people I was working with, I don't know how I'd be able to do it, honestly. But I really like my team, and I like the folks that I work beside, so it keeps me coming back. That said, I have a couple little side project things that I'm doing. One of them is working on putting together a Death Cafe with one of my friends, and the support of a local farm that's been doing some cool metaphysical stuff. And so looking to do that. And then I'm looking to run a RPG with those same folks. I want to offer it up as a free sort of therapeutic, shamanistic sort of thing. Something where give people a chance to get in touch with the part of themselves that maybe they don't normally touch, and not in a dirty way. But yeah, I'm thinking about running the Clay That Woke, because I thought that that was a very good experience for the players that were in it. I think it's a great opportunity to explore the idea of place in culture, as well as the tension between spirituality and tangible physical life. So in the sort of woo terms, the 3D world, where we have our concerns, eating, drinking, rent, gas, lights, all that sort of thing, versus the world beyond, fifth dimension, or beyond, whatever, which is the additional, like, the reality. So the Clay That Woke works with that concept a lot, and so I look forward to actually playing that, which makes me also think that I will be running Savage Worlds Pathfinder very soon for my game group, which I'm very excited about. We're going to see a video about that sooner than later. I got Giacomo 100% excited for making a character, and I think that that'll be a good time. So he'll do a character creation video soon, hopefully within a couple weeks. So we'll see what happens. So all that said, I hope that you all have a wonderful, peaceful week, and we will see you hopefully next week, where I'll talk about the latest batch of comics that I read. Maybe I'll show you some more of my painting, and anything else that comes to mind. All right. So thank you. I hope you have yourselves a wonderful, wonderful week, and we'll see you next time. Bye.